So I've been testing so many builds since Edge of Fate launched. Every day I probably put together 5 to 10, take them into Mythic missions, which is negative 50 power level under, and see how they perform. The builds that I think stand out from the crowd are the ones you see on my channel. Now just take a look at our class ability in the bottom left. You're seeing that regen correctly. What you're watching is a build that I never thought could happen. I bet 99% of you couldn't guess the exotic armor I'm using. It honestly blew me away. Just watch this gameplay for about the first 5 to 6 minutes against this boss, because I really think it showcases how powerful this build is when you understand what's going on. And in a minute here, those 2 yellow bar minotaurs will spawn in with those purple banes on them, the gravity sucking ones, and watch how well we handle them. Even when I watch the gameplay back, it still surprises me of what this build can do. And the biggest thing I want you to take away from this build is that it's all based on hits, not kills. All you need to do is land hits on enemies. Now I've had a ton of people ask me why I haven't used the combination blow and grapple with verity combo, and why haven't I done a video on that yet. And to be honest, when I played it and tested it close to like a week ago now, I just didn't enjoy building up my combination blow times 3 and then being able to hit that big grapple. And not that it's not good, it's still great, but in Mythic content with boss type enemies raining down, it was a bit difficult. And then if you're left with just a boss or a mini boss, and it falls off pretty fast when there are just no enemies to build up that combination blow and get off those powerful grapples. But if you are enjoying it, then more power to you. I'm sure plenty of people have made a build on it already, and hopefully that answers those questions about why I don't really want to play the combination blow and grapple build. Now, as you can see in the gameplay, our class ability is the catalyst for this entire build. So we do want to make sure we take Gambler's Dodge. That way, no matter where we use that class ability, we get our melee back. As you can see, probably every, 3 to 5 seconds, we're using the class ability and the melee ability. Speaking of melee ability, you can choose whatever you want. I did like Threaded Spike. I think it puts out the most overall damage, it bounces between a bunch of different enemies, it severs all those enemies, and it's definitely one of the more powerful melees on the Hunter. And then for your super, you have 3 choices. Either take the Strand, Void, or Stasis super. That way we get extra damage reduction coming back to us when we choose one of these supers, and I actually like Silk Strike with the build. As you can see in the gameplay, I was getting it back like in under a minute, I think. So that way you could just keep popping it over and over, and it actually does decent damage. For your grenade, this is your choice. I do like Grapple Grenade on the Hunter. Gets you around quicker, and it's a great way to apply the Unravel debuff to everything on the field. And I technically should have used it more often to spread that Unravel. Now the 2 aspects we're taking plays right into that class ability. We take Threaded Spectre, so when we activate that class ability, we leave behind that clone. It takes a ton of damage, then it explodes for damage and pops out Threadlings. Now as you can see in the gameplay, we pair that with Ascension. While we're airborne, we use the class ability, and that creates that burst of energy around you that amplifies you and allies, and then also jolts all the targets that are around you. So when we combine both of these aspects together and you use your class ability, just with a little bunny hop in the air or jumping higher in the air, you're activating Ascension and everything that comes along with that, while triggering that Threaded Spectre clone, and letting all these enemies that are against you just firing at that clone. Later on in the gameplay, I show the Hydra in the second room of this encounter, I believe. And just watch how that Hydra's splash damage doesn't even bother me, because he's just shooting at the clone all the time, while I can just unload my Outbreak Perfected on him. Now for fragments on the build, I do like Facet of Courage. Your Arc, Solar, and Void abilities will increase damage to darkness debuffed enemies, while everything is severed and unraveled. And so then every time we use Ascension, we're just getting a good little 20% damage buff there on Ascension. I like Facet of Purpose. This just gives me Woven Mail for 5 seconds every time I pick up an Orb of Power. Next we'll take Facet of Protection, obviously, 15% damage reduction when you're surrounded by enemies, which we are with this build. With Facet of Protection and Amplified up at the same time from Ascension, you feel pretty good, especially when you're just leaving a clone everywhere, because stuff isn't shooting at you anyways. We'll take Facet of Dawn. You see how many melees we're throwing out, so we just have Infinite Radiant when those melees hit an enemy, and that's just a 20% damage buff to all our weapons. And then lastly, I still like Facet of Ruin here. This really only plays into our Transcendence Grenade, and it would help Silence and Squall if you were using that super. But as you can see, I was popping Transcendence probably every 10-15 seconds. You see how fast I'm getting it back, right? So it just helps that grenade hit a bit harder, and you do get a plus 10 weapons from Facet of Ruin. Speaking of Transcendence, you see that if you just play the gameplay loop normal, you're getting it very quickly. You pop it as soon as you get it. It's just extra damage. It's extra damage reduction when you're in that form. And I believe even your weapons get a 5% damage increase when you're in that form. So just pop it when you get it. Now, speaking of weapons, we do need a good area denial grenade launcher. In the gameplay you're watching, I was using Psychopomp. I was using Outbreak Perfected in my primary, and let's say I was shooting at a boss with it. I could just stand there, unload at him, and have my dodge back in about 7 to 8 seconds, and would just dodge, leave a clone, and then shoot at the boss again. But the issue you have there is if that boss somehow kills that clone quickly, then he is going to target you, right? Well, with Psychopomp, if you add in that area denial grenade launcher shot, and then you just go about using whatever weapons you're using, it'll get your dodge back in 3 seconds, literally. If you tag multiple enemies, you can have your dodge back in a second. So technically in the gameplay, it's not even the best that you're seeing, because if you were perfecting this, you'd be using that void area denial frame. I don't remember exactly what it's called, but it's from the dungeon that has attrition orbs on it. So every time you're tagging something, it's just popping out orbs too, which would just feed into your survivability. And then for your exotic armor of choice, that is Speedloader Slacks. I cannot believe I am using this exotic, and I have to get a shout out to Peru here. He left a comment on one of my videos. Now I took the build a different way than he did, but he said he was using it on Strand with clones and an area denial grenade launcher. And I will say, Peru, that this works very well together. So I did take it over to Prismatic and did some things different with it, but I did see your comment, and that is the whole reason I tested speedloaders to begin with, so thank you for that. Now we get a bunch of extra perks from speedloaders when we dodge. It increases reload and handling and does a bunch of different stuff, but the main part here is dealing sustained damage grants class ability energy. So any type of just sustained damage you're doing on a target gives you class ability. If you go test this in the shooting range, and just use like Outbreak Perfected or a primary and just start shooting something, you'll just see your class ability jump up and up. So that's the main way we get that class ability coming back very quickly. And then we build into a bunch of different stats here that really help the build. So I had 90 class ability. I took that down to 60. You would still get your class ability back pretty quickly, but when you're up closer to 90 or 100, you just get bigger gains. And it did make a difference in harder content. I also took 80 melee. So every time that I would dodge, because we get it back so quickly, I guaranteed to get my melee back no matter where I am on the field. I also had 70 grenade and 70 super. And then I had 90 weapons. All of them were 70 to 100 in melee, grenade, super, class, and weapons. And the main reason I did all that is I just explained class and melee. For grenade, in your Transcendence form, it lets you get your grenade back very quickly and also grapple back. And then having your super at 70 just lets you build back your super very quickly for the damage done. And since we're running the roaming super of Silk Strike, you get the 3 times multiplier for that, right? Because it's a roaming super. And then my weapons were at 90, so we're pushing closer to that 100, and that's a 15% damage buff to all our weapons. And then we add in a bunch of mods here, and those mods further amplify a lot of the stats. I think I had 3 different font mods in here. So on the helmet, I ran a super font, so that means my super was now 92. And then a special ammo finder to keep up ammo in that area denial grenade launcher. On my gauntlets, a grenade font, so now my grenade is up to 90 when I pick up an orb of power. Impact induction, causing damage with a powered melee attack, reduces grenade cooldown. You saw how many powered melee attacks you're throwing out, so now you're just feeding the loop really quickly back to your grenade. And also a heavy-handed. Your powered melee final blows create orbs of power. Just in case that threaded spike that's bouncing between enemies every 5 seconds basically, it might get a kill, and that creates an orb of power for us. On the chest piece, I did take 1 arc ammo generation to keep up ammo in Psychopomp. That pairs nicely with the special ammo finder, and then 2 other damage resistance on your chest. On the boots, an arc scavenger to get extra ammo into that arc weapon, and then a recuperation so we get some health each time we pick up an orb of power, and a weapons font. So now every time we grab an orb of power, my weapon actually went up to 108. Instead of the weapons font, it actually might have been better to have a like kinetic surge to match Outbreak Perfected, but I just chose the font to play with the other fonts. On the class item, we'll take a time dilation to make that armor charge last 15 seconds when we get one. Of course, a Reaper mod. This allows every 10 seconds after we use our class ability, which we always are, to spawn an extra orb of power when defeating something with our weapons. And then Powerful Attraction to scoop up those orbs if we are close enough when we use Ascension. For artifact mods, really nothing crazy in there. Just take Shield Crush at the end if you have it, because when you're amplified, your grenade recharges faster and deals increased damage, which we are amplified. And then you also get the Woven Mail perk in there as well. Your melee recharges faster and deals increased damage, but that one's not as important because we have that melee all the time. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I know this was probably a little longer video than my normal, but I just wanted to explain it properly to you all. Have a great rest of your day, and thank you so much for watching. I'll see you all in the next video.